A lot of it is also, I think, perception. Okay, so in business standard, we had a Honda City
Hmm.
1.3, I think, or a 1.5. I can't remember now.
Hmm.
But there was a story that we wrote about how the Tata Indica at that point of time was not proving to be niggle-free and unreliable, etc. But the Honda, for example, was, and separate stories appeared in separate places. And one of the people on the floor, a very senior journalist called Mr. Jagannathan, he took great objection, and he used to live in the same area as we all did.
Hmm.
So he says, "What is this? My Indica is as reliable as your Honda, but my Indica is always being pulled up, and your Honda is." And he's like, "Your Indica is reliable. Please tell us more."
Hmm.
So Mr. Jagannathan says, "I only go to the mechanic on the weekend. And whatever minor things are there, he just tightens those screws, puts the beading back in place or whatever, and then it is done."
Hmm.
So we had to explain to him that to us, the idea of reliability was the Honda's bonnet wasn't open till it was due for service because it just ran.
Hmm.
And it was at that point that it became obvious to Mr. Jagannathan that going to the mechanic on the weekend, every weekend, was not what reliability means. He didn't even know that this was not the pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think,
That must have been a step up from whatever he was driving earlier, what he would have had
correct.
earlier. So
Yeah,
it
it's a
was,
perception.
yeah.
Right. So a lot of people today still worry saying, if I don't take care of my vehicle, something will happen.
Hmm.
But the probability of something happening is falling and falling and falling. Think about it like this. I remember renting a ambassador with a driver, a taxi. We were going to either Shimla or Manali or Nainital, one of the three, I forget. And it was anticipated that we would have to stop at some point.
Hmm.
And it would either be the brakes overheating,
Hmm.
or it would be that the engine will overheat, or it would be that there would be kachra in the fuel along the way somewhere, and that kachra would clog a line at some point of time. And duly, it was the kachra which was the reason we stopped, because that is the most complicated way. So by Murphy's law, that is what had to happen.
Hmm.
And we were on Shimla. So we were on the side of the road looking down at the toy train, looking at the scenery, playing around while the car was dealt with. And it took 4-5 hours to deal with this car. And nobody in that group, us, the kids, the parents, the driver, the mechanic who was found to help, nobody thought that this was an unusual occurrence.
Correct.
They thought, yeah, this is completely normal. But in 2024, when you remember there was a jam going up to Lonavala from Mumbai on the expressway, and various vehicles had clutch issues,
Yeah.
and various bonnets were open. And that was a big deal, saying, it's just bad driving.
So this, exactly that. I used to live in Khopoli, right? So we used to go up. So I grew up there. So the getaway used to be to go to Lonavala, Khandala.
Hmm.
Halfway up the mountain was a stopping point,
Yeah.
where all the cars used to park.
Hmm.
They used to top up the radiator water, let the cars cool off,
Yeah.
and all of that,
Yeah.
so that they could complete the rest of the journey without issues. That there was a space made for that,
Yeah.
and that was normal. And and back then, even for us, like summer vacations, we used to go down to Nagpur, where the rest of the family was.
Hmm.
So we used to drive down in a convoy. So the entire family used to. It was absolutely normal. And this is the simplest of things.
Hmm.
The one thing that you could count on happening multiple times was tire failures.
Correct.
You would have numerous punctures. Every car, you would stop for one car. So minimum in a day, we used to make it a 2-day journey.
Hmm.
And every day you would have at least 2 to 3 punctures. So we as kids used to be very excited. That puncture, okay, can we do it? Mount the jack,
Yeah.
jack the car up. And we learned all of that then only. Okay, how to do it, what's the right place to do it, and all of that. And that one simple thing. Today, look at our state of tires.
Correct.
Like we have had this discussion about, I'm not so worried about tubeless tires, etc. Right? Versus tube type. It's not such a big deal for me. Agreed, there is a safety factor with tubeless tires. But at the same time, the chances of failure have gone down so much, even in that one simple thing. Your rims,
Correct.
the tires that have been made,
Correct.
they are so much more robust.
And
everything.
And road conditions have improved.
And I'm okay. So again, same going back to the drive to Nagpur. So when Siran was much younger, like he must have been maybe 2 years old, he was still in a child seat. We drove from Pune to Nagpur at least 2-3 times. Vanita, Siran, me, just 3 of us. I think once was a Figo, once was something else, once was an Indica. So we've done that without even thinking.
Yeah.
Without any hesitation. And the roads back then, and this I'm talking about 10 years ago, even then, that the road to Nagpur, for the most part of it, wasn't great. A lot of it was like state highway.
Right.
not great condition. Shoulders used to be bad. You'd get potholes. I remember one time I lost a tire on the Fico because that pothole was like a crater straight down in. There was no way of dodging it. So it was bad. But did you think about it as the normal condition that, hey, will the car make it?
No.
Do I have to worry about tires? No, you just got in, drove, and said, okay.
Yeah.
You just have to be slightly careful because you don't know the road that well. That was about
Correct. Yeah. So my father-in-law's favorite story about how the vehicles used to be unreliable back in the day is that he and mom-in-law, they used to live in Mumbai in Juhu, and they would go to Lonavala on the weekend. And Lonavala roads were narrow; it was a steep grade and all of that. He says, so in the boot of the Premier Padmini used to be a wooden block. It was part of the original equipment. And it was mom's job to run out of the car when they came to a stop and put the wooden block under the wheel so the car couldn't roll back on the slope. Because he said, because if I sit there with the brakes on, then they take longer to cool down, which is the point of why we stop, to let the brakes cool off. So my dad would drive and he said, Meena, get ready. And then mama would jump out and put the brick under, the wooden block under the wheel. And that was included in the equipment, like with branding on it. Like it was like a
Padmini
or Fiat or Premier. I'm not able to remember, but the wooden block was branded.
Oh wow,
can you imagine that today?
That sounds almost modern luxury now.
Yeah.
You get a little chalk with it, which is branded, made out of pine wood.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Stick the wheels.
Yeah. What? A call to action. Okay. Guys, you guys need to do something. No, like anything. Oh, come to the main motoring channel. We've got more of this stuff going on there.